And welcome everyone to the SMITE Challenges Circuit. It's a wonderful Saturday, and I'm excited for the games we have today. My name is Gormizer, and joining me on this set is going to be none other than Mifflin. And Mifflin, we have a pretty appetizing one to start off today with. Belt Slap going up against Cold Llamas. I mean, the team that took first place in the circuit playoffs, the first place in the first phase as well, Belt Slap, has just been one that's a treat to watch.
We can't count out Cold Llamas either, but you're right to emphasize Belt Slap. We got some world champions over there, Zeros, Trixtank, Arkle, all these guys who have been around the scene playing at the absolute highest level, and now they're down here in the SCC, still making their names known across the SMITE fan base. But Cold Llamas, they've got Maniac, Streak Up, Hazer, all these fantastic players as well. It's going to be probably the best matchup possible out of the SCC.
Yeah, both of them 2-0 right now, so whoever walks away today victorious gets to maintain that undefeated streak. But unfortunately, someone is going to be taking a 1 in that loss column. And the thing that's interesting, and this is maybe the worst time to bring it up, at least for Cold Llamas before the set, is that I don't remember Belt Slap dropping even a single map last phase until they got to the playoffs. So there's a lot of pressure, I think, on Cold Llamas to perform, to try and take down this team. And, you know, like you said, Cold Llamas has a lot of huge talent on it. But, I mean, Julio, Johnny, Zeros, Arkle, Trixtank, like a lot of ex-pros that have been around for a while. It's a tall order to try and take this team down.
Surprisingly, when you watch Belt Slap play, it's not always those veteran players that are popping off. Johnny's relatively new to the scene compared to the rest of his team, and this guy is an absolute monster out of the jungle. He's playing gods like Camazot, Susano. I've seen him play Aokwang a couple times, and he's absolutely decimating the competition. So even if you don't have a name in this lineup, you might have just enough player skill.
If we see Aokwang today, I will give you $20 the next time I see you. I'm just going to throw that one out there right now. I'm willing to take that bet this early on. But, hey, we'll have to figure out whether or not Johnny's willing to flex onto something like that as we get into picks and bans here for game number 1. Belt Slap here. Maybe the favored team, but honestly, Cold Llamas, again, one of those teams that, I mean, it's like the surprising underdog, right? They're not so far behind. They're not really necessarily someone to count out because of anything outside of the fact that Belt Slap is really good. They have all of that potential there. I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to end up seeing a lot of that, but some people who were unbanned going into this week of play, well, Heimdall and Morgan, not surprisingly, they are going to be taken out almost immediately.
Yeah, no surprises there. Morgan's literally every god in SMITE, so that's pretty strong in of itself, but even in her base form, she's operating as a pseudo-assassin. She'll one-shot just about anyone. And Heimdall, one of the best aggressive hunters they can throw over in the long lane, also one of the safest, so why not get rid of them? They're so strong, they're so versatile, and they fit just about every role. Don't want to play against it.
So Yamoja, you bring out the Sobek as well, 2 Guardians, although I feel like we don't typically see Sobek over there. Yesterday, we got a little flavor of, like, in the open circuit of a Sobek support, but he really is that solo laner. He also brings some, you know, I'd say decent anti-heal. Do you like that ban coming through this early?
I think a Sobek ban is pretty safe. Obviously, there's some higher priority gods that are going to have much more impact in the game early that you could ban away, but if you know that Belt Slap is going to be relying on that Sobek out of the solo, he's so strong come teamfight phase. The second he's able to rotate out, he's able to immediately shift the focus of the entire game, almost a complete dynamic shift once Sobek gets into that fight. So if you know that you're worried about it, might as well ban it out, but it does leave open some pretty strong picks. Camazot's comes to mind.
I was thinking, you know, Terra, Yamoja, there's not a single band down there that I think I disagree with, but Camazot's, King Arthur even, making it through. It's going to be an interesting, probably solo matchup there. Camazot's, a lot of that sustain makes things just difficult for everybody, but even Uller on that list. I mean, there's so many gods available that are top picks, and I feel like Cold Llamas, they get a pretty solid swing with those first 2.
They do. Uller can flex towards mid, it can flex towards the hunter role. King Arthur almost always ubiquitous in that solo lane. Camazot's, though, with Johnny on Belt Slap, that could very well be the jungle role. He's been playing it a lot through there. True. So I think picking it up first, it's a fantastic flex pick. You can't rule out that it could go solo. You might be able to do it now that Tier's been picked up, but this Camazot's has been absolutely devastating in the jungle.
Look, I'm just saying, Warriors have been going into the jungle a little bit more recently. Tier jungle was a thing in the way back when I think before a lot of damage changes on his Fearless that then got kind of shifted into sustain on his 2. But hey, you know, I can dream, right? I won him back. That was the only time I was ever good at jungle, was when it was tier jungle. So maybe that's what it is. But also, I'm going to harp on the Ganesh just because I love Dharmic Pillars so much as an ability that I feel like I have to throw it out there. That it's prot shred, slow, and damage. It's just good. It makes me happy.
Ganesh also has a super strong counter matchup into this Kali, one of the best gods in the game for not dying. Well, you're still going to die if you're not allowed to press 4, and that's a pretty long silence channel as well as just a knock-up CC. So Ganesh has a lot of ways to shut down this Kali before she can get involved, before she can really get the chainsaw revving up.
A lot of fun little interrupts that he can use, but he's so far looking mainly at Kali there. Hu Yi, Raijin banned out by Cold Llamas to be able to deal with the duo lane matchup as well as a little bit in that mid. Discordia, and I wouldn't be surprised to see, well, I actually was going to think another mage, but they're going to take out the Khepri here, who's actually been, you know, again, on the rise. Geb, Khepri, these more support-oriented guardians, much like the Ganesh, as opposed to the Xing Shin we saw at the beginning of the year. I mean, even Hercules, though he makes it through pretty often still in, like, the Pro League, isn't as high priority as they used to be.
I can't ever disagree with a Khepri ban in the second phase. He's not quite strong enough in my mind to get him in that first 6 bans, but if you're through the second phase, the first 6 picks have come through, and you know the enemy team doesn't have a support, Khepri brings so much. Scarab's Blessing is going to be the best get-out-of-jail-free card in the game. He's going to be able to leverage that ultimate with this Kali as well, so banning it out means that they don't have to worry about maybe having to deal with 3 lives on Chainsaw. There's so much that Khepri brings to your team that just getting rid of him almost always going to be correct.
I don't know which one of these has given me the, you know, the solid snake I've been, you know, showcased. What is it? I've been picked up, noticed. There it is. Finally, my brain gave me the word. Other than Yanis, maybe Baba Yaga, 2 mid laners, both of which have been seeing a little bit of play, and I feel bad because I can really only mention one guy who's been able to do it successfully, and it's kind of heroin on both of them when it comes down to the level of play. Yanis, especially when it comes down to what a United like to do, the way he can help rotate things in, it's going to be big for zeros. But that Baba Yaga here with a Bacchus, with a Kali, I mean, she can do a lot of damage if you're willing to find the right potions and kind of throw your cooldowns and admittedly maybe toss out some mana for yourself. Do you like the way she fits into Cold Llama's lineup?
I think that Baba Yaga has one of the weakest, if not the weakest, early games with Heavy Mage, and pairing that with an incredibly weak early game assassin like Kali might spell some trouble in the early game for Cold Llamas. Outside of that, if they make it to the 25-minute mark with King Arthur, Bacchus, Ul, Kali, and Baba Yaga, that's going to be so oppressive. Baba Yaga has some of the highest damage output of any mage in the late game. Kali has the same for the assassins, and everyone else is going to scale incredibly well. So I think that we're going to be looking at Belt Slap trying to get aggressive early and fast.
Well, we were talking about this set a little beforehand, trying to estimate what we would expect to see, and you threw out potentially 35-minute games at the minimum, whether or not it's Belt Slap winning or Cold Llamas winning, usually going a little lengthier than normal, you know, average maybe being about 30 minutes here. And that, as you just mentioned, seems to favor Fails and Pretty Prime here with the Kali and the Baba Yaga. Is it worse for wear if Belt Slap go that long, or can they still fight them in that late game? Or do they need to end it or sooner?
They definitely are looking at it sooner. They don't scale nearly as well as Cold Llamas do, but their early game is so strong. With Johnny on this Camazotz in the jungle, he's going to be able to rotate in, put the pressure onto all of these gods that are weaker in the early game. And that's the strength of having Camazotz in your jungle. When he's in solo, sure, he's going to dominate that lane. He's going to make it to where the jungler doesn't want to rotate in. But when he's playing this jungle role, he gets involved in mid. He can start using his damage early on.
Well, right now it's Hazer who is in trouble. He's been locked down by Trixtank. I believe stunned out there by Archile. Even a little bit of poke there on the fadeaway. And he's going to be able to walk away with his life this time around. But that just showcases how strong Archile is alongside Trixtank. These two get aggressive like no other. And Trixtank, I mean, he's been doing it for 6+ years at this level. And so it's dangerous to try and go against him, especially when he gets into his comfort zone.
In this duo lane, it should be the Cold Llamas with the bully potential. They've got an Uller, they've got Bacchus. Those are both very aggressive picks. Right now, they're just getting outboxed, they're getting out-pressured. It's really just aim diff right now. It's not match deficit. It's not that the Belt Slap has got the more aggressive comp here. They're just hitting more abilities and taking fights really well.
I think also something to be mentioned is the fact that, you know, Hachiman, we don't see it too often that it happens, but having that stun this early, if you're able to connect that, which is already difficult to do, I think, at this level, but just having that come through once in a while is going to be helpful. hi-rez, though, a lot easier to hit on his stun. You just have to burp on him for a little bit, and he's going to be able to lock it down. And it's just not been going solidly for Gold Llamas, except for over here in the solo lane where Julio, well, he's in a very dangerous spot.
This tier is going to be struggling for a while. Around level 6, when he gets his second or third point into his cleave, he gets some of that sustain online, he can sit in this lane, he can fight into the King Arthur some more, but right now, his damage output isn't matching King Arthur's, neither is his sustain. So he's just going to be treading water for a little bit as he tries to get some levels going.
All right, now Maniac going for the blue buff invade, but that's going to be Julio and Johnny making the rotation in onto him. This might be biting off a little more than you can shoot. Fails is coming into the fight. Looks like Maniac's going to be able to get out of this one. He's going to turn around because he wants some more. Johnny going to be caught between the two, but he's going to be jumping forward. Going to be able to find the first blood there onto the King Arthur. Fails. Running away now just to try and find his minions and maybe a safe zone to be in, but a lot of damage from Julio. Not quite level 5. The blink from Johnny. Going to force the blink from Fails even. If they had been able to level up, get that bat out of hell, or potentially the judgment to just jump in, could have been big, but they're going to fall back, secure their blue buff and that first blood.
That feels bad for Maniac. He establishes early dominance in the lane. He forces Julio under his tower. He tries to rotate in for the blue buff, but he doesn't have a strong enough jungler in the early game to back him up. And Johnny was there so quickly, immediately turns it around. And it looks like for a second there that Cold Llamas should have been able to make it out with their lives, but Johnny, completely decides to jump in and just trust that he has the auto damage. That's a lot of confidence, but it works out in favor of Belt Slap.
Well, it's something that you get, much like you highlighted from playing this Camazotz in the jungle so much, which is what Johnny has been doing. Seems very confident in it, much like we have confidence kind of just reeking out of Belt Slap all around. I mean, I can't think of a single lane right now where they don't, seem to be struggling. I mean, maybe over there in solo up until that kill, things were going wrong, but soon enough, Julio's going to have Lawbringer online, which just, I think, enables maybe even earlier rotations from a tier.
Yeah, honestly, Julio, he made it out of the danger zone. He's fine. Getting that early assist, which could have been a kill, it gets him out of it. Now King Arthur doesn't really have the solo kill potential. Fails, falls a little bit behind because he sacrifices farm to try and rotate in to help out on that blue buff. So now this Kali's behind. This King Arthur loses his entire lead, goes back to even. Now Tier's got sustain. He's got his boots ready. He can rotate out whenever he wants. And the Blink's coming back up. Belt Slap's looking good.
And Johnny's going to make a good rotation. Darting Pillar's going to come through, and hi-rez are going to be able to jump over that, but unfortunately he can't get away, and neither can Streak Up. Johnny locking him down with a bat out of hell, and well, Fails makes the rotation over, but it feels like this aggression that has been coming from this duo lane finally mounts up into something with that gank, and even an ult tossed out from Zeros just, for icing on top of the cake. Now this jungle's as good as theirs.
Johnny's on a speed run right now. First one to 20 kills. 3 minutes in, or 5 minutes in, he's got 3 of the kills for his team. All of them. That's 100% kill participation landing in his pocket, and all of that aggression's been born from him. Belt Slap's playing around their jungler so well.
And even here, I mean, he's got such, well, not even a massive lead compared to Pretty Prime, still a level down from the mid laner, but he's a big essence that is saving Arkle, at least a little bit. That's going to be Pretty Prime going up into the house, looking for a little bit of damage, and remember, those fireballs do trace people down, so the damage will still be there. Fortunately for them, it's not going to be enough to find a kill, maybe just to force out a little bit of the pressure that was picked up by Belt Slap and get things back to a kind of sustained portion of the game.
Interesting to point out that Pretty Prime doesn't look like he's electing to go for an early stack build. Usually when we see this god picked up, you might see double stack. You could even see triple stack because the passive just allows you to build up those stacks by standing near your house passively. It's for free. It's one of the few gods that can really leverage that super expensive Warlock staff into Book of Thoth or something like that. Instead, he's going for a more standard mage build, which will help out Baba Yaga in the early game a bit, but it's not going to be enough to make her feel even as much damage as a Llamas at this point.
And that was one of the big conversations we were having around her when we first saw her played in the Pro League, and honestly, still I think worth having now, where it's that question of stacking items because her passive gets you those pretty much for free, much faster than you would normally have to go through. Whether or not they're going to be worthwhile. Looks like Belt Slap maybe want to get aggressive and try to punish something like that, not going for those stacking items. But as of right now, I want to know, is that a big deal for you? Yes, like you said, it gets her on early, but missing those stacking items, is she going to be lacking that late game presence?
She'll be lacking her top-end potential. She'll still deal very relevant damage. Her scaling is very strong. But when you go that full stack build, you get nearly 1,000 power just from items alone, not counting red buff, not counting power pots, something like that. Now she's going to be looking at parity with other mages.
Well, Dharmic Pillars come through. You don't even need the rest of the ults that are available. You had them just in case. Arkle is going to be able to get rid of Streak Up. That's 2 deaths onto the Hunter here for Cold Llamas. And once again, it's around this purple buff timer and fails. Lucky to have a leap in this instance to get on out of there. It doesn't seem like Belt Slap are going to slow down anytime soon. Now that they have that timer up, they're going to be here like clockwork making that rotation.
And Cold Llamas have to respond every time. Hazer, no jump available, going to get caught out by Johnny in the jungle. Yeah, that's number 4 for the boy. 5 kills have been impacted by the jungler on the side of Belt Slap. There's just too much pressure for Cold Llamas to deal with at this point because the only lane that they drafted to just win out cleanly no matter what is their duo lane, and even then, the jungle presence from Johnny, just the raw damage presence of Belt Slap's duo lane has forced out the Bacchus and the Uller. Now they're falling behind, both of them down a level on their counterparts. It's going to be hard to claw that way back up, especially considering this Uller went for the Transcendence Rush. He doesn't have his boots online just quite yet, so he's going to be a little bit slower. His power output's going to be a little bit lower. He's not going to have the attack speed to trade out with Arkle, and it makes him that much easier to gank.
And it's starting maybe that conversation of how Camazot's, maybe late game is that sustain machine, but nothing to scoff at early game either. I mean, he's coming through, and like you said, I mean, it feels like he's speedrunning how much damage we see. Johnny will make a gank in the right lane, then all of a sudden show up under the tier 1 in the left. He seems to be everywhere on the map all at once. And unfortunately for Fails, he's still got, 12, 13 minutes before we start to see anything big come out of that Kali.
And he might be waiting a little bit longer than that because of all the pressure that's landing on him. Now he's 2 levels down. Julio's been invading his jungle. Johnny's been invading the jungle. He hasn't got red or purple XP in a little while either. This Kali, who's already a late-game hyper carry who needs these items to get online, who needs the levels, is coming at it at a much slower pace than you might already expect.
Once again, purple buff is up, and look at the jungle. There's 4 members of Belt Slap that are coming over here. Whether they want the kills first or the buff first, they answer that question real fast. Hazer goes down before I can finish the sentiment, and the purple buff going to go down in the meantime. At least confirming some experience. Again, keeping the timer, stripping it away from Cold Llamas. Kills read 6-0. The experience, or the gold, I should say, is about 4,000 now in favor of Belt Slap. No Furies that have been able to boost them up either. And that's just another step of control they could step into, is turning around and getting this Gold Fury.
The neutral objectives are definitely going to be very easy for Belt Slap to group up around. If they take the defensive positioning and force Cold Llamas to face check it, the best way they can engage is through this Bacchus. And being level 7 at this point, 4,000 gold down, Hazer is not tanky at all. Any fight that Belt Slap choose, they should be the beneficiaries of.
Yeah, it's difficult already, I would argue, at least from my experience, being a Bacchus, period, in a game, because you have so much setup, but man, you just don't feel as tanky as some of the other Guardians early on. Your mana definitely disappears as you try to get drunk as well. And, Intoxicate, it's a great ult. It's one that we've seen in the past that's good for steals. And honestly, it feels kind of like where Hazer's mind has to start drifting. That level lead playing such a huge role, Dharmic Pillars being such a hard thing to fight against because it's going to strip his protections. I mean, what does Hazer do to make this more impactful other than just hope that he can get his items online in time?
He's looking to counter-engage. He's looking to stop dying, being 0-3 right now. Probably not the best look for him. If he could just slow down the bleed, get some farm online, he's going to scale so well into late.
Well, you said stop dying. He didn't quite get the memo there. It was maybe just a little bit of a delay for him, and unfortunately he's going to get picked off one more time there in the jungle. And this time it's going to be the Gold Fury picked up for Belt Slap. And no contest coming around from Cold Llamas as of right now. I don't even know if they probably know they're on it. They do for sure now with the audio cue, but whether you could try to do anything about it is a different question. Johnny even wants to pick up a little bit afterward. Here comes Arkle looking for the kill. The Dharmic Pillars are up, and Streak Up, you might be under your tier 2. It might only be 11 minutes into the game, but that's not going to stop Johnny from going to the bat of the hell. Hazer's had enough time to respawn and make it back into the fight. They're going to be walking away with a couple of clean kills, maybe having to save Xerus in the process.
Whew. Fails, loses half his health, but Hazer, not willing to give up on the fight, jumps in.
Oh, that's going to be Zero's portaling into a bad spot. Home sweet home comes out here from Pretty Prime. He's going to be looking to lock down some damage, but no one else is really that low. Johnny going to be able to pick up hi-rez for a second time, essentially in the extended engagement. Trixtank looking to lock down Silence and keep Fails locked away. Pretty Prime chases down Arkle. Trixtank goes down in the process, and now it's a jungle matchup. Fails is about half health. Johnny does have some ganks coming in. King Arthur in mid lane. You have Streak Up who's respawned, and now Pretty Prime rejoins the fight. Maybe getting a little too aggressive there for Belt Slap. They get the Fury, but was it worth it?
Well, they lost a lot of the gold lead that they had. It was around 4,000 just before the Fury. Then they get it and lose out on a major fight afterward, cutting that gold lead down to about 3K. But XP gold, it's still in their favor generally, but that overstay from Johnny, Zero's getting caught out in mid. A lot goes wrong for Belt Slap there, and Cold Llamas catch up a lot. This Kali Fails, picks up 3 clean kills, and completely eviscerates the lead that was established in the jungle. Now that Kali that we were worried about that might not have ever come online is getting all that much closer to it.
I mean, being able to pick up, the level 14 mid laner, and still level 11 jungler. But I mean, Johnny at 6-1 and 3, he's worth a ton when you're able to get that kill. So Fails, like you said, absolutely taking over, or taking back some control from where Johnny has been, maybe slowing the game down a little bit as Kali's going to be able to come through and feel more impactful in these fights. We were just talking a couple of minutes ago that she was going to end up having to take, well, I think I said 15 minutes, which would still be about 10 minutes from now to be able to come online and have that full potential, but he's maybe taking that timer down a little bit here, as long as he can stay in these fights that way.
He's already established a lead. Now he's got to level up. He's going to get that second relic online, but Belt Slap trying to push as much of a lead as they can. Pick up Pyromancer. hi-rez was there to spot it out, but has to jump out himself. Now the only neutral objectives that really could be done at this point are the permanent objectives. We're looking at towers. We're looking at oracles when they respawn. There's not much that Belt Slap can do to push their lead right now with Goldfree and Pyromancer dead. We might see them return back to farming, and again, Cold Llamas are going to benefit from that greatly considering how strong their team is going to just transition into the late game. Baba Yaga's only about 1 level down now. This Kali's got probably about a half a level lead. Cold Llamas are fine. Being 3,000 down at 14 minutes normally would be absolutely crippling, but with a team comp that's slated so much towards the late game with this Kali, this Bacchus, this King Arthur, and this Baba Yaga, I'm sure Cold Llamas is absolutely fine waiting a little bit longer.
Well, Maniac's going to have to think twice about what he's doing. That's going to be a good blink. I believe it catches the ult there. Maniac going to get locked down up against the wall thanks to Fearless. Now with Julio, with everybody, it feels like, from Cold Llamas over here. They're going to be able to find that kill onto the solo laner. Maniac, well, he's no more for at least 40 seconds. The only person who didn't get a piece of that action's over here. Arkle just farming up, hanging out, doing the same thing that you want. But I mean, a 4-man rotation this early on, you can tell the Fury's down. They don't have anything to worry about on this left-hand side.
Maniac's got to feel bad about that one. I mean, that's a clean play. He blinks out, uses his ult to create distance, but immediately Julio blinks in front of him, just tanks it up. It doesn't matter that Julio's eating King Arthur ult. That does no damage to him, but now you've got no escapes left.
It's just working out well, pretty much from top to bottom. Unfortunately for Maniac, that was the worst spot to be in at the time. I think he's tanky enough that maybe even running through the tower could have been more beneficial for him. Either way, it's not necessarily a good spot. There's that stun coming out from Arkle here, and well, hi-rez half health, but looks like a 4-man rotation to him. Darmic Pillar is going to cut off his escape, and now it's just going to be Arkle looking for those last couple of hits. Unfortunately, now it's going to be one more. There it is, 0-6 for the Bacchus as they finally find that kill. Maybe not the best showing overall from hi-rez this game, and realistically, the scraps, I guess, to be picked up are all on Fails to maybe show up and be the performer.
Being 0-5, trading your life for a purple buff isn't nearly as bad as it looks. hi-rez doesn't live that scenario no matter what. The rotations from Belt Slap were superfluous. Arkle had that kill 100% on his own, but because hi-rez's so far behind, he's level 10, his respawn timer is low, he's already 0-5, his bounty's incredibly low. He does steal away the purple, which might have been slightly value for him trading out his life.
Well, now it's going to be Fails under pressure. There's going to be the Lawbringer into the backline, but it's not going to be able to find anyone. Julio is kind of left, well, hoping for more after that one. But Primal Fury started up by Belt Slap. Maniac is in the neighborhood, along with Hazer. And, well, like you said, Hazer, he might be easy to kill, but he also doesn't have a whole lot to lose. The duo lane collectively is 0-9, so they're going to be looking for a lot out there from Zeros to create some portals for his team to rotate around. He's going to be able to keep himself safe in the backline. Now it's Streak Up that is in trouble, and they're going to chase him down. Find the kill. Johnny is going to be the one who picks that one up. Fails. Maybe the next on the chopping block. That speed buff keeping him out of there, but Julio playing the strong arm in terms of keeping him out of there. Home Sweet Home was used by Pretty Prime. It looks like Cold Llamas are slowly but surely burning everything. This might be up to Hazer to jump in with an Intoxicate.
But take a peek at the health bars from Belt Slap. They have to be careful. Zero's half health, Trix Tank half health. Yeah, Cold Llamas are behind, but they've got such a health lead right now, they might be able to take the fight.
Well, it's going to be Johnny diving in on the mid lane as the some pressure seemed to finally be mounting for Cold Llamas. And you lose Pretty Prime in the process as well. Unfortunately for them, yeah, there's no Fury, but well, you come away with a couple of clean kills throughout all of that. You still control that jungle, and depending on the positioning, you might be able to either find another kill or the Primal Fury anyway, as it looks like they're going to rotate right back into it.
Yeah, I guess saying Cold Llamas should have been able to fight that was a little bit short-sighted for me. Of course Johnny's going to dive your mid lane and absolutely solo Pretty Prime. He's got his lead back now 2 levels up, and Hazer, a little bit out of position.
It's unfortunate. I think Belt Slap are just playing this too well. I mean, they leash the Fury just to make sure that Intoxicate can't come in and steal it away. It's the one thing I think Hazer could have going for himself right now. And just so unfortunate that he's, well, been left in this spot more often than not. Zero's going to whiff the ult, but he's not going to whiff the follow-up damage. Right now, it's just the question of when he will die, not if, as Hazer's going to get taken down for the 7th time this game. Now, I believe, 11 kills, or 11 deaths there for the duo lane. Cold Llamas. It's just not quite been their game, and like you said, for something that was drafted to be controlling and dominant, it's not really been going too well.
When you have 4 late game win conditions, you're really not going to have the best early game, right? You have to pick something to get you through these early phases, to get you through these early engagements, and then you can rely on the late game hypercarry. That's why normally when you see something like a Hebo mid or something like a Freya ADC, you look at the jungle, it's going to be Robin, Erlang Shen, Thor, these guys that can get you through the early reliably, almost on their own. But Cold Llamas go completely differently in their route. They say, well, if we make it a late game, all of us are going to pop off. We're all eating now. And it's not working out. They've got no leg to stand on in these early fights, and Belt Slap are absolutely abusing them for it.
Well, as of now, they're just trying to find some sort of neutral state to get back into this one. I think Hazer has recognized that his 2-level deficit just in support is not going to help him too much, and he's trying to get in position for some of these steals. Belt Slap are going to be able to get the Pyromancer this time around. Maniac going to get portaled down, a little over half health as he's looking to disengage from this one. But Julio, Trix Tank, still in potential areas to engage here. The rest of the team on Belt Slap seems to be falling behind, so Fire Giant not really on the list right now.
6,000 gold up about 20 minutes in. Fire Giant could be a place for Belt Slap to force a fight, but they have to be doing just that. They have to look for the engagement. If Cold Llamas show face around it, Belt Slap has no chance at securing it easily. It would come down to a 50-50 where they're also at the disadvantage in the engagement. So if they decide to, they can group up around Fire, force Cold Llamas to check it, and then chase out the engagement. Likely use Zero's ultimate to just re-engage, chase down anyone that tries to run away on the side of Cold Llamas. Or they can go the safer route, group up, take some tier 1s, group up on the left, siege tier 2 even at this point with such a huge lead, nearly 7,000 gold. They can do just about anything that they want as long as it's not too risky. The lead established by the majority of Belt Slap's members is crippling. Yanis is 3 levels up. Johnny is 2 levels up. No one's going to be able to keep up with this Yanis. No one's going to be able to trade into this Camazotz. Belt Slap could just bully the map as much as they want, but they're still on a timer. This Kali at level 16, she's going to hit level 20 eventually. She's already got the Hasten online and the Executioner. Kin size likely next. The tanks on the side of Belt Slap don't have much more time.
That's my favorite statement I love to make, is once you hit level 20, it's only a matter of time before they catch up. There's nowhere else for you to go upwards other than to maybe buy off some more items. So right now, that's pretty much what they're playing with, but it's going to be the Dharmic Pillars in the lockdown once again. Maniac is just getting bullied over here. There's not much you can do in that kind of scenario. Again, 4 people on top of you. The only one not there this time Zeros, and it looks like he's just going to be dancing around with Streak Up, forcing them to maybe make a big rotation. It's 3 members of Cold Llamas over there on left, and you know what? They might even be able to get Zeros here, but is it going to be worth it? Because that Fire Giant started up, and it looks like it might be confirmed here soon by Belt Slap.
Yeah, chasing down a Llamas, yeah, it's not going to work. Chasing down Zeros, that usually won't work. Chasing down Zeros is Llamas, yeah, best of luck, bud. This man's got way too much mobility, and you guys on the side of Cold Llamas just don't have enough damage to finish him off, even off of some nice CC from Hazer. Fire Giant for free. Maniac loses his life to getting locked inside a Dharmic Pillar for about 6 seconds straight. Can't blame him for that one. The chain CC was perfect. And now Bet slapped 10,000 gold on the lead. 22 minutes in. I usually equate Fire Giant to about 10,000 gold itself, so we'll say pseudo 20,000 gold lead here. And they still have 2 tier 2 towers to work through. 3 Phoenixes still alive. Gold Fury, or Oni Fury rather, respawning very soon. Good luck, Cold Llamas. You're hitting your power spikes. You're getting there. You're real close. This Kali's almost got the kin size online. But with everyone so low level, I mean, Hazer's level 13, you have no engagement factor on the side of Cold Llamas.
So with a 21-minute Fire Giant, it feels weird to be saying this, but this Oni Fury that's coming up might honestly be one of the most important objectives of the game, because it could give Belt Slap what they need to end it. Could give Cold Llamas what they need to maybe stabilize, at least for a little bit. Maybe not enough to bring them back into it, but just to buy time, which, as you mentioned, is kind of what they need right now. Just Fails finishing off his items, hitting that level 20 mark, getting some of these experience gaps to be different, and just lower as a whole for Cold Llamas will help. But unfortunately for them, the tier 2 and left is gone. Looks like the tier 2 and mid is going to be following suit here shortly. It's a 3-2 split, and I don't know. I mean, how's the defense hold up here for Cold Llamas?
They have not much to stand on. Baba Yaga's going to have to do a lot for them. She needs to deal almost all of the damage from a range. You could get the setup from Streak Up with the axe, but there's just not a ton of damage output, and Pretty Prime already at half health.
And Fails almost dead right off the bat. That's going to be an Intoxicate in there. Hazer doing whatever he can, but that's going to be a nice shotgun blast from Zero. Is going to be able to pick up 1 on the Maniac. The crits ringing true, and it's Johnny in the backline. Arkle going to be able to pick up Pretty Prime, and now there are only 2 members left on Cold Llamas, having a hangout inside of the base. And there's not much you can do to save this. You do get rid of the Hunter on the side of Belt Slap, though, which might be enough. Well, I should say to try and save some objectives, but 2 of your Phoenixes are already gone, Mifflin. There's not much you can do in terms of saving the rest.
You could group up, pray, and now Cold Llamas, they're on life support. These guys are attached to an iron lung. They gotta hang in there. If at any point Belt Slap knock on the door of that right Phoenix, if they get inside range to hit it, I would say that Cold Llamas have already lost the engagement. At this point, it's going to be a Hail Mary 5-on-5 engagement. The best that Cold Llamas can hope for is that maybe Hazer hits a multi-man knockup, Fails, gets a reset on his ultimate, and they have to just continue winning the fight straight up. They can't play it defensively anymore because they have no legs to lean on. Fire Mini Waves are going to be just blasting through mid and the duo lane. The only bastion of safety is a right side Phoenix that's going to be really easy to destroy if they're given any opportunity. Cold Llamas are going to have to make a miraculous, heroic, concerted effort to just deicide Belt Slap, and even if they do, it's not a win. They're not going to get Fire Giant off it. There's no Gold Fury. They might get a Pyro. They might get a Phoenix back, but they've got a lot to climb out of.
Well, speaking of Fire Giant, right now there's still only 40 seconds left, so maybe a little bit of time, especially now with these Oni waves coming down the lanes, to potentially pressure out this right-hand Phoenix. It looks like that's where Belt Slap are starting to organize themselves. The back's coming through from Cold Llamas, so they'll be here. But, I mean, you said if they can get in range just to touch this Phoenix, it's going to be bad news. So maybe even more pressure on this defense as the minions start to roll in. But you've got a Fire Oni wave in mid. It's going to be difficult. I mean, they're pulling you in 2 different directions right now.
And that's the worst case scenario for Cold Llamas. If they have to split up at all, the engagement win factor is going to be much harder.
Well, Hazer looking to try and find a burp to start this one out, but it's going to be in the mid lane where things are kicking off. Julio already half health and maybe going to be in a little bit of trouble just in case, but he's going to heal up and be fine. Portal set up by Zero, so make sure his team has an escape. Phoenix on the right-hand side, just a little over half health as of right now, but the health bars Yes, you have the fountain right there, but for Cold Llamas, they're still just low enough that they're in danger, and you can feel Tricks take Johnny, Julio. They just want to go in. Darmic Pillars is going to get dropped, and Johnny's going to be able to pick up the first kill. Hazer is taken off of the board for now. The Phoenix is going to go down as the aggression comes through. Batted to Hell and Arkle coming into the back line. Arkle going to be able to help and pick up that kill. Tricks does get traded out in the process, and Kali looking to make the big plays. This time Arkle goes down and fails, is getting aggressive, loses the ult, but he's chasing down Julio, but it doesn't matter. It's the fire minions, Mifflin. They just distract the whole time. And the Titan goes down.
You knew the threat. You called it out before the engagement even started. The fire Oni minion wave in mid. That's the exact same one you were looking at, and it just walks in and blows up the Titan. That's the bummer, right? Cold Llamas have to group up. They have to defend that right side Phoenix. They have to take the engagement. They just didn't have enough manpower to deal with every single threat coming their way. It's a rough one. I mean, wow. These are both great teams, but Belt Slap made it look easy.
Man, that fight felt like the turnaround. I mean, that was Fails. Like, I felt Fails starting to pop off. It was going to happen. The defense was right there. And then it just stopped. And it just disappeared. I mean, it took me a second to catch up with the end of that one. But, I mean, you get Johnny going 10-1-7. You see him aggressive from very early on. Unfortunately for Hazer, maybe not the cleanest Bacchus game that comes through. I mean, I felt like Belt Slap, much like it was in the first phase, kind of controlled that one from the get-go.
Literally minute one. I mean, the first 5 minutes, Johnny already has 3 kills. Take a peek at the clock. Yeah, that's 4 minutes in, and he's going to pick up his 3rd kill right here. That's rough. Johnny can't get off to starts like this, especially on a god that's going to be able to dominate the map early on. Camazotz absolutely falls in that column. With this lead, no one's allowed to play. Poor Hazer, rest in peace.
Yeah, I think there's potentially maybe too many highlight reels that are going to start with Hazer going down here, and I like the fact that it was a nice little balance between it. I think Zero's got a really good number of ults and just a solid amount of damage off for his team. We maybe didn't get to see the full-on utility Yanis that comes through. It was kind of just more kill them dead as much as I can mid laner Yanis that Zeros brought into this. But, I mean, you get this early lead, they shut down the duo lane. It feels like Johnny is everywhere he's needed, pretty much when he's needed to be there, and it was so difficult to shut him down. But I mean, they had so many good bans. What do you deal with to try and stop a Camazotz from being that big next time?
You got to shift up your own draft at this point. Draft something that you think can win a lane. Get pressure somewhere. If you want to have a hyper carry in your jungle, you have to rely on your lanes to stay afloat on their own. This Kali's not going to be able to win you a lane in the early game. Maybe instead of having a Baba Yaga, you look at something like a Poseidon. Maybe instead of a Bacchus in your duo lane, look at something more aggressive like a Hercules. If you think your solo has to win, King Arthur's about as good as you could hope for. I mean, Maniac did what he could. He got blasted by ganks, but there are ways that we could see them shift up their draft and try and make a little bit more pressure happen in the early to facilitate your late game hyper carries to get to the late game cleanly.
All right, Belt Slap. I'm going to give you this one for free. For anyone on Twitter who wants to make this one, you can take the clip of Mifflin saying Maniac did what he could, and then every clip of him getting 4-man ganked after that, just for the fun of it, because unfortunately he did all he could, and for Belt Slap, they committed so much to shut him down that there wasn't much left for him afterward. But you said you need to change it up in the draft. We'll get to see what exactly they decide to shuffle out. I will be honest, I'll be surprised if Camazotz makes it through, but I won't be surprised if Cold Llamas do just because they're first pick now.
I don't know. I think you have to ban out the Camazotz. Even if you do first pick it yourself, you're leaving so much valuable open. There's so many good picks that trading Camazotz is almost always going to give up 2 pretty strong first picks for the other team. Well, last game, what was it? It was, help me out, Goremizer. They got something nasty. It was King Arthur and Uller for your first picks. That's an insane trade-off. You can't reliably win that trade consistently. This Camazotz is a high-value pick, but both of those gods that we saw Cold Llamas get last game should have been able to do well. It's just that Johnny performed through and through absolutely more than anyone could have really expected from him. I mean, dude dominated the game almost single-handedly for the first 10 minutes.
All right. So chat, Mifflin, I'm going to do something I normally wouldn't want to do, but I'm going to derail the conversation for a second just to show off 2 cute sleeping dogs over there, because I think it's worthwhile as we come into this. But, hey, it's Morrigan, it's Aphrodite, it's Tyr, it's Camazotz, a lot of things that were very potent there coming through. And I think Cold Llamas learned pretty well from their last game what to ban out. I mean, tier being something that comes through here is not typical, I think, in any way for someone that would be banned in the first phase. But with the way Julio played it, you need to cripple him somehow.
Julio played it incredibly well. He was actually getting bullied out a little bit before those ganks came through, but seeing that respect ban after how Game 1 went, I can't blame him. The CC lockdown on those ganks inside of solo came from tier Fearless into a wall. You're stuck inside a Dharmic Pillar for 3 seconds off that alone, and the Ganesh finishes you off with his dash. So Belt Slap going to reprise the Ganesh here. That's a strange first pick, especially considering how many priority gods are available. Raijin comes to mind, Merlin comes to mind, Uhl still available. I don't think that Ganesh is a highly contested pick, but it might be different down here in the FCC.
Yeah, maybe not number 1 overall, but then again, I think I've seen Belt Slap first pick Kuzenbo in the past as well, so maybe not the highest priority always on their mind, but Ganesh Uller coming through. And honestly, with the way Trixtank played it last game, it's not too surprising to maybe see him go back to it. I mean, I feel like he was maybe pardon the turn of phrase, but he was a pillar of their success that came through, right? I mean, he is the one who really was setting up a lot of those kills when it came to late game, shutting down Maniac, but in the early game especially, making sure that they could lock down that duo lane.
Gore, I'm mad at you for Pillar of Success. I can't handle that, but you're absolutely right. Everywhere he went, he dominated. He sits in his soul, or the duo lane at level 1, fighting into a Bacchus and an Uller. Yeah, he won that engagement. He rotates over to solo. Rest in peace, King Arthur. He was able to completely zone off the enemy jungler, the Kali, in just about half of the engagements every single time. She used to wait so long to get that ultimate off because Trix is just running at him. I mean, there's a lot that this Ganesh brings, and I think when you're playing it that well, might as well do it again.
Well, Hachiman Discordia now on the other side. Notable that Discordia was banned in the second phase last time by Belt Slap, so maybe important for her to come through. And I'm starting to see some similarities here. I mean, Belt Slap go with the Uller Kali. The only difference between their draft this game and what we saw out of Cold Llamas last game was that King Arthur there instead of the Ganesh. Do you like Belt Slap going for this? I mean, for Fails specifically, he was so potent early on this last game. Is it safe to put him on something that maybe isn't going to be as impactful that early?
I think that it is safe because Johnny is really well known for his hypercarry jungles. He knows that he can scale well into the late game, and he's one of these guys who does get involved a little bit earlier on in this Kali. Sometimes he even goes for the Hydros Rush out of that build, so he can try and leverage an early game lead, but even then, if Belt Slap just don't make the same mistake that Cold Llama did, if they pick a decent pressure mid laner, a lot of what we saw Fails fail to do last game won't come to fruition for Belt Slap. It's whether or not they build the draft well around this Kali.
Well, they're going to ban out the Daji and the Circuit there on the other side, so maybe not quite as many potent junglers available for Cold Llamas. We'll have to see where they decide to go with it. The Yanis warrants its own ban, especially after the way that Xeros just played it. Raijin going to join him. Notably missing Merlin as of late. I mean, maybe he's not the top of the top, but he's still one of the best mid laners that we've really gotten to see. Is there a reason you can think to maybe skip over? Well, of course, right as I say skip over him, they decide to lock him in. Why does it take so long to get him out there?
I think that Merlin might be a bit of a double-edged sword in that he's a little bit risky to play. He's got to position very well. His flicker is not the longest range dash escape in the game. So maybe down here in the FCC where people are a little bit sloppier in the team fights, where the engagements aren't really as 5-stacked or as cookie cutter as you could expect from a true blue SPL engagement, you might want that added degree of safety. But instead, Belt Slap going to go ahead and pick up Merlin. And let's talk about what makes him good, because it's a lot easier to do that than talk about what makes him bad. He's got insane damage output. He's still got a certain degree of survivability. He's got more abilities than any other mage in the game. His switch stance is a fantastic self-peel tool. It's got a slight knock-up as well as damage. And his objective burn is nothing to sneeze at.
Well, I'm gonna start this one backwards in order of what I think is most important. Jormungandr locked in, doesn't necessarily lose lane too much. Okay, cool. Vamana finally not going into the jungle this time around, or at least I kind of hope he's not going into the jungle this time around for Belt Slap based on the rest of their draft. And then the one that is maybe the most important to me is Ratatosk. He's not someone we get to see too often. Is this something that is going to be able to come swing things in favor? Is it going to make a big difference for Fails, especially against a Kali? Or is this a stabilize and let Discordia, let this Hachiman kind of show off what they can do and the jungle just doesn't lose?
Rat is one of the best bridge pick junglers. He does a lot of what Thor does. He's going to look to dunk down and set up his squad, and he's got decent survivability. Dart's a fantastic escape tool. There's a lot this Rat can bring to his squad, and counter engagements, counter ganks, absolutely up there on that list. If Johnny tries to get aggressive, he has to know that Fails is going to be hot on his tail.
That's exactly what you need to be worried about. Fails maybe making those rotations through the Cosmos, that ultimate. It gets you pretty far on the map with how many jumps it has from branch to branch. So be looking for that around level 5, but we have a few minutes before then. Is there much that we can maybe expect from him early on? You know, last game, Johnny specifically on that Camazotz was making pre-level 5 ganks and finding success with them. That's not necessarily something that Kali screams out to me as capable of, but is that something Ratatoskr can do and hope to walk away happy?
He is definitely going to scale well into the early game, a lot better than this Kali will. The second he hits level 5, that's where I really expect to see him look for that pressure. And he's going to be looking for that pressure a lot. He's trying to outscale Johnny. He's trying to make his impact known. Last game, Johnny does it, almost immediately removes Cold Llamas from the game just because of the lead that he establishes for his entire team. Now Fails is in a similar opportunistic position in which he could do the exact same back to Belt Slap.
Well, keep your eyes on his Acorn to see when he is able to, I guess, finalize that one, keep himself going. But also keep your eyes, at least where mine go, is to the Hunters, specifically Arkle, once again. The Mage's Blessing this time around as opposed to the straight Transcendence start that Streak Up had. What kind of merits are there for this? I mean, you need the mana when you're Uller. If anyone's played him, everyone who's played him feels what it's like when you do not have a Transcendence on him. You lose so much so fast.
The Mage's Blessing makes him an early game kill god. If you get hit by an axe at level 3, you're losing probably about 60% of your health just from that Mage's Blessing passive. The additional MP5 is going to help him out a lot in this lane, especially considering that he foregone of mana pods. And he's still building into that Transcendence. He's still going to get that power online, just a little bit slower. Seems like Arkle is looking to just dominate lane, look for early kills, and if he does get a kill, it's going to completely pay off that Blessing and get that Transcendence online at about a normal rate.
So dominate kills, find a lot of this lane and control in it as early as possible. Seems very similar to last game, at least in terms of game plan for him and Trix Tank. And maybe this time on some gods that you would expect to do it. Ganesh maybe doesn't scream most aggressive god to me, but Trix Tank typically screams aggressive player to me. So I expect to see them, much like they are now, just a little past that mid line across the map where they have that aggression. Maybe surprising to see Johnny not go for those rotations. I think he stole some of those XP camps, but keeping it slow-paced so far, and that's more or less what Belt Slap need. I mean, so many late-game carries. You don't need that much early on.
They do have a ton of late-game carries. This Vamana is going to scale very well. The Kali, obviously, Merlin as well. But Merlin, when compared to something like a Scylla, compared to something like a Baba Yaga, these other late-game mages, his early game doesn't suffer nearly as much, so he does pseudo-fit that bridge pick role, and he shouldn't lose out any pressure against this Discordia.
Julio and Johnny looking to defend their blue buff, and it's going to be Fails that's caught out this time around. Knocked up and taken down. Johnny, credit for the kill, and Maniac, well, he's Yorm, so I don't know if he's in too much danger here. They're going to continue to try and chase him down. The knockup's going to be good to get him some space, but there's the slow to continue the chase down. He's still a Guardian, and he does still have a lot. The Consuming Bellow this time around going to be able to come out just to disrupt a little bit. And hey, you know what? You stop him from killing you, but can you stop him from taking your buff as well? He hasn't hit level 5, so no World Serpent. But Fails has been able to respawn and come back in. Looks like he's going to be able to pick up a kill onto Julio. And that's the downside of some of these extended engagements.
If Johnny makes it out alive, it's definitely still value in favor of Belt Slap. Kali getting a first blood is going to be absolutely crucial getting online. Even trading out the life of Julio, that's not a big deal. And then Johnny gets the solo blue XP.
Now, trying to find a little bit of pressure elsewhere. Arkle, he's hurting. It's the only way I can think to word it. He's not exactly in the cleanest spot. Needs a band-aid or two to be able to stay in lane this time around. So some of the pressure coming back in favor of Cold Llamas along with that kill they got over there. And right, but like you said, I mean, you get the blue buff XP, you get Kali maybe with her feet under her now, and she doesn't hit level 5 first, so maybe an unfortunate scenario showing that Fails is farming very well and efficiently. But you do at least have some control, something going your way.
Oh, Trix Tank in a little bit of trouble. The River's Rebuke coming through. Fails, not going to leave it up to the support. Takes the kill for himself, but Johnny might be able to get Hazer.
And he's going to be coming in. That's a good stun to get the peel for the team. And now Johnny forced to fall back. Unfortunately, even though he's level 5 and has that ultimate available, maybe not the best time to try and dive in and be all aggressive. You're not that late game Kali that we've seen, you know, the likes of like Cherio, Pilot, and make look so menacing. You're still just the early game 5 minutes in Kali, so you can't accomplish too much out of it. You lose your support, and that's maybe the first time I felt any sort of control in the duo side for Cold Llamas.
Yeah, hi-rez looking a lot more comfortable on this emoji. He's using his engagement tools very well. The riptides are coming through well. And the healing, I think, is such a big deal. Streak Up was dropped to about half health multiple times in the first 5 minutes. There was a lot of kill potential there for Arkle, but the healing coming out from hi-rez really dissuaded them from going all in on these engagements, and it buys them enough time, and they win the sustain war, eventually forcing Belt Slap into their own tower, getting some kills for themselves. hi-rez's looking a lot better. Hopefully he keeps this up, and it's going to be a highly competitive game if that's the case.
I think keeping your eyes on hi-rez, and specifically his ult, is probably going to be the most important. That River's Rebuke is just so potent. As right now, it looks like they're trying to replicate at least a little bit of what they did last game. A lot of pressure on the Maniac early on, although it's not been able to get too much. Fails, going to be silenced out and picked up there in the middle, about half health. Dark McPillar is going to come through, and a little bit of a blink there from Zeros to try and close the gap, but he's going to be taking too much damage to the backline. Johnny's going to be able to pick up Fails, but the World Serpent is going to be coming through, looking to knock him up, and well, he's between a rock and a hard place for Zeros, so they get the kill there. World Serpent looking to control it as River's Rebuke comes crashing on in onto Julio there. Johnny's still looking for some kills, some sort of damage, but he bites off way more than he can chew. hi-rez gets credit for the kill, but everybody got a little piece of that action. Johnny goes down, and they end up still keeping it in favor of Cold Llamas.
Cold Llamas are doing well. They've got a slight lead now. Despite it being a 4-2 slash line, it's only about 100 gold in their favor. XP maybe a little bit more so. The jungle might be about a half level up at this point. The support's doing a little bit well. But all in all, I'd say completely even game. Belt Slap losing out on these early engagements to be expected. This Kali doesn't even have the Crusher online yet, hasn't got any of the Katanas, but still, Johnny's been able to make himself known. 2-1 is the slash line. He's looking good, and he's maintaining pace with Fails just slightly behind, which is to be expected. Fails now, at level 7, can keep pushing this lead and forcing fights that Belt Slap aren't happy about.
Well, they're going to try to force one over here once again. A good stun from Arkle, but it's not going to be enough to save his life there. He does end up getting taken down. And he was pretty much the only one that it felt like, for a while, had that solid lead in duo. And, well, maybe that's going to help equalize here a little bit. The biggest difference I'm noticing, though, between games 1 and game 2 is realistically the amount of early pressure, right? Cold Llamas have the control this time around, but Belt Slap, unfortunately for Cold Llamas, by 7 minutes in, we're so much further ahead and had so much more control right now. And it feels like even with Fails, you know, having the guts to go in and try to steal a red buff and maybe even successfully doing so, it's just not the same, it's not hitting the same, I should say, as the way it did when Belt Slap was in control.
Belt Slap made a concentrated effort as a team when they got a lead, and they were invading red buff with 3-4 members. They were invading purple with 3-4 members. Right now, it seems like it's the Fails solo show. He's going in and trying to make plays on his own, and his team isn't benefiting nearly as much when they're splitting up the kills, they're trading out multiple engagements. Right now, it's just Fails getting sneaky and getting small wins for his squad, whereas Belt Slap played as a team, played as a unit, and moved up together, and everyone was succeeding.
Well, Maniac is going to be able to pressure out Julio and buy himself a lot of time and some damage over here onto this tower. Pretty much for free, as Julio has to back under his tier 2. There's not a lot of surmounting pressure, not a lot available options to Cold Llamas right off the bat. Fails is about to get his ult back up, so maybe expect a gank to come out of him soon as he rejoins this 3v3 in mid. Specifically, you know, I guess the conversation now, in my eyes, is shifting to be kind of about Discordia, kind of about Merlin. Discordia starts to feel like she's being a more significant part of the game than Zeros is right now on this Merlin. And that tends to shift as the game goes on. Merlin late game hits pretty hard, but I mean, if Pretty Prime can keep this level of control up, this could be a really solid mid lane.
Pretty Prime's build indicates immediately to me that Cold Llamas are looking to get their power spikes online as quickly as possible. We see Zeros, he's likely going to go into this Chronos Pendant again. He loves that CDR build. That's not nearly as much damage as this Discordia is going to do.
Well, Julio, once again, just trying to defend his own blue buff, not going to be able to do so this time around. There's going to be a little bit of a tremble coming out onto him. They lose the Totem of Ku as well, so Johnny I like it. He just backs off into his own jungle to try and find whatever he can. There's a lot of pressure over here on right, though. I count 3 members, which should signify something happening on left for Belt Slap, but they're not really forcing any issues. They're just going to fall back, farm up, and kind of keep their heads about them.
Yeah, Belt Slap's just happy they got their own red buff for once, and this time Fails wasn't quite there to invade it. So that's a free farm, and I'm sure they considered it a win. But meanwhile, this gold lead continues to grow. Not as fast as we saw last game, now only about 1,500 gold in the leader code Llamas. But that gold lead is growing slowly, and it's growing without any real concerted effort. They haven't grouped up on an objective. They haven't really made any risky invade attempts. Blue buff, yes, but where's the risk on that? No one on Belt Slap was even in range to defend it. If Cold Llamas continue to do so, they might even get a Gold Fury.
Well, they're starting to hang out over here, and again, Fails has that ult. He can go up into the Cosmos anytime he really wants to, whether it's for vision or to just dunk down on somebody. It could open it up, and Maniac's made a real big early rotation. Gold Fury going to be, well, 1 hit away. River's Rebuke comes up. Belt Slap are going to be able to strip that one out from under Cold Llamas, though. The Dharmic Pillars were on top of it. I'm not sure what quite secured it for them, but either way, they're going to be able to take away some of the gold lead Cold Llamas had. Now they're looking to chase down some kills. Pretty Prime is incredibly low in the back. Still gets some damage out, but Fails is going to blink forward to try to get to him. Maniac locked between 4 members. He's going to get burned down. That should be the kill for Johnny. Now 3-1 is the Kali here. And yeah, everyone else is going to be able to walk away, but you lose a ton there if you're Cold Llamas.
You lose your entire lead, and you just give it to Belt Slap. Cold Llamas is about 1,500 up. Now they're 1,000 down. They lose the fight. They lose the Gold Fury, and it's all Tricks Tank diff, baby. The Dharmic Pillars, the first ability, all of that. I'm pretty sure it was Ganesh that steals it away. And Belt Slap, yeah, they're fine with that. They weren't looking for the fight anyway. They win the fight, and they get the objective. Johnny now has a lead in this jungle role, a level up over Fails, and this Kali still has power spikes to come.
Streak Up's trying to get aggressive here against Arkle, but how much can you do? This Wooler has that Transcendence, maybe not fully stacked just yet, but he seems pretty happy to keep on aggressing into you. Streak Up luckily has some ward coverage and notices Tricks Tank is running over. He's going to get on out of here to stay safe. But one of the things that kind of catches my eye, specifically the way you highlight it, and I never think about this when I'm Ganesh around an objective, but I mean, Gold Fury moves around a lot. And around the right spots of Dharmic Pillars, that's a good chunk of damage that can be dealt to it. And I just think maybe bouncing around too much, things like that, was unfortunate for Cold Llamas. And Tricks Tank, I think his presence in this game, specifically his presence on this Ganesh in Game 1 and so far in Game 2, has been maybe the big decider for a lot of these fights in favor of Belt Slap.
Especially this game. Maybe less so in Game 1, where I want to give most of the credit to Johnny, as he just kind of ran around and was a murder hobo and killed everyone. This game, Tricks Tank is having to step up. He has to do things in the early, because he can't rely on this early game Kali, and he's absolutely stepped up to bat. He's done it all. He's set up some early kills, he's stolen away an objective, he isn't dying nearly as much as we saw from certain Guardians last game. Only 0-1, he's not losing any engagements for his boys, and he's buying plenty of time to make sure that Johnny does come online, to make sure that Zeros does come online. And even with Tricks Tank winning out in these fights, winning out in these engagements, he's spending so much time in the jungle just hovering around. He's not soaking up any of the farm from his lanes, and that's why they're able to start to establish a lead. Now Zero's a level up as well. It's because Tricks is just playing it right. He's making sure that he remains equal with Hazer. He's not exactly looking to establish himself a lead.
He doesn't necessarily need to control his, well, yeah, like you said, maybe the matchup in the supports, and instead is controlling anywhere else he possibly can. Johnny forces an early ult out of Streak Up there. Bead's still available to him, though, so maybe Stun's not as potent. Tricks Tank is going to get aggressive over here in the jungle. Red buff seems to be the point of contention. Cold Llamas might just be giving it up here as they just back away. It's not respawned just yet. So Belt Slap are going to go ahead and fall back, maybe not wanting to overstay their welcome here, especially with an Oni Fury just kind of on the horizon, still a minute and a half away. Maniacs made that rotation in. They're going to be jumping forward. Red buffs galore for either side. Seems like a little bit of pressure here will chase you out, and then almost immediately the team wants to fall back.
Yeah, Cold Llamas moves up there because they know they have Maniac in the wings, and they can see that Julio's just playing around the lane, trying to push in the tower, proxying it out. So Cold Llamas have the advantage in the fight, but Belt Slap aren't willing to give it to him, and that's smart play. You don't want to take those risks with Gold Fury spawning, as you pointed out, and instead, they go back to farming, and they get a tower for themselves.
Well, now World Serpent going to be crushing down onto Johnny, along with the dunk from Fails trying to lock him in. They're going to be able to force the ult out of him, but he's going to get a kill in return. Doesn't get the last hit there on the Hazer, whether it was his target or not. We won't be able to find out. Doesn't get the full heal. Johnny may be effectively out of this one, but Pretty Prime looking to get chased down. Vamana doing everything he can. This big baby's going to be able to find the stumps, and Lil Mana leaves no prisoners. Pretty Prime goes down. And they're going to be able to get that pressure back that they were losing. They might still lose some of it. Fails making a questionable decision to dive the tier 2 there. Ends up giving his life up, and, well, I mean, I guess Maniac gets to walk away with his, but that's the only one.
Look, if Fails gets the stun off first, credit to him, he would have got the kill, but you can't be going for that. The Acorn Blast stun is so hard to land. Johnny just has to press 3 if you're near him. Of course it's going to work out. That's just a little bit of overzealous, a little bit over-aggressive play. I understand why, as a jungler, you would go for something like that. You lose out on an engagement. Your mid laner's dead as well. You lost a gold for you earlier. You feel like you have to make a play, get something back. Unfortunately, all he did was put Johnny even further ahead. Now he's got the Hastened online. He's working into either Kins or Executioner. He's 2 levels up. Fails, you went from hero to 0 in about 2 seconds flat.
But, hey, if he gets that kill, Johnny's tilted, right? Like, there's no way you walk away from getting killed under your tier 2 with a blink like that and not have it affect you just slightly for a couple of minutes. So maybe there's something to even be said right thereafter, but unfortunately, again, for Fails, it doesn't quite happen that way. And how with Oni Fury coming up, yeah, you've got all your members. Your ults are coming back up if you're Cold Llamas. And, well, on the other side, for Johnny, it just now ticks into the full 100%. So he's going to be able to hold on to it as this Oni Fury is up. And, again, it feels like maybe a crucial turning point. Whoever gets this is just going to get enough pressure to maybe even turn their eyes over towards that Fire Giant.
If Cold Llamas win the engagement cleanly, they don't even have to look at the gold Fury, as you pointed out. Fire Giant is on the table. 16 minutes in, they'd have to win this fight pretty cleanly. Like, they need 5 members strong to go for it. But if they do get the gold Fury themselves, they close up the level gap, they close up the gold gap a bit. If Belt Slap get it with this late game draft, Cold Llamas might as well be doing the comp and dance meme for this week in the SEC, because that's going to be so crippling for them.
Well, already Julio's in the back line onto Pretty Prime. He's half health and taken out of this. And there's going to be the big baby. He's once again going to be chasing people down. Maniac is getting burned, forced into the World Serpent. And now he's looking for some disruption. So you've got Pretty Prime staying alive. You've got Maniac staying alive. But now it's Hazer who's going to be in trouble. The River's Rebuke is going to come through. And it looks like he's going to be able to toss himself a few clicks away to make sure that everybody won't be able to chase him down. But it takes a lot in the process and won't be able to be immediately in this fight. And unfortunately for Fails, that means he's got no front line. Pretty Prime still gets chased down by Julio, who decided to make a loop right back around. And Streak Up, he's not necessarily been big in these engagements. He hasn't been a detriment either. He hasn't gone down too often. But he hasn't been able to get anything accomplished, even here, zoned out. So the Oni Fury goes in favor of Belt Slap. And like you said, this is going to go ahead and start maybe bringing up the coffin dance. Because for Cold Llamas, that's bad news bears.
Yeah, let's get a check on the checklist for Belt Slap win conditions. Johnny starts to get the Hasten online, gets the Kin size easily, or the Executioner. Yeah, he's hit late game, Kali's there.
Yeah, he's pretty happy.
18 minutes in, you got a late game draft, you're about 7,000 gold up. Okay, you're looking pretty good. Pretty Prime hasn't been allowed to get involved in these fights because you draft a Vamana who's going to be able to absolutely sit on top of him. Yeah, it's worked out so far. Only 1 shell on the side of Cold Llamas, and that's on Yamoja. She's not always going to be around Pretty Prime to help out. That's rough. There's not much that they could deal with this Vamana with on the side of Cold Llamas. Kali's starting to become ridiculous. You have 2 auto-attack gods who's going to be absolutely shredding your backline. Vamana and Kali, only 1 shell to deal with it. That's not looking too good. Your Ratatasker goes for the 4th item, Transcendence. Doesn't have it stacked up at all. Looking at 15 stacks 20 minutes in. Yeah, you're looking pretty bad. Cold Llamas need something huge to win an engagement. Maybe someone on the side of Belt Slap steps up too far, they get a counter engage, and they have to look for multiple kills. I think Fire Giant's the way back in. Cold Llamas might be playing around a steal.
With all the control they had early on, it feels like they'd be able to step up a little bit more. I mean, even now, Hazer's finding decent engagements, but maybe you're looking in the wrong spot. You're going for the Kali, who's going to be able to get 1, going to be able to get 2 in quick succession. Is Johnny there? One of them being his target, so he got a nice full heal off of it, and now you're at a 3v5. Maniac, World Servant, not even to save his life, is looking for some follow-up damage onto Arkle of all people. And he might be able to isolate him, but look what you're losing in the backline. The chase down's going to be on for Pretty Prime. He's going to get taken down. Hazer is left alone, and Maniac, yeah, you found some good damage, but what are you going to accomplish? Hazer, soon enough, might be going down. It's him or the tier 2. It looks like him is the option Belt Slapper going to go with. They're going to find that kill. And well, Jormungandr, while he looks ridiculous jumping, is going to try to jump away out of this one. But hey, guess who turns and burns better than the best of them? Well, it's going to be Merlin. Xeros there takes up the final kill. You said Cold Llamas needed something big. Belt Slap, I think, found something bigger.
Yeah, it's called Johnny. My man hit his power spike. He said, all right, I'm late game now. Time to start popping off, and he does. I think that's an unofficial quadra in favor of him. Now he's level 18. 4 levels up on Fails. Fails is now the only one in range to defend this tier 2 tower. He thinks better of it. He's going to have to give that one up for free. And this gold gap continues to grow. We're at 20 minutes. Now we're about 10,000 gold up, just like we were looking at in Game 1. It took Belt Slap a little bit longer, but that's by design with the draft that they have. And now Johnny, who was already looking good in the late game last game, should be looking even better.
And even more painful, when you highlighted he was level 18, within the sentence he ticked up to 19. And yeah, Fails is slowly catching up right now because of that level 15. It's still only 4 levels, but it's just even more dangerous, especially with how fast he's attacking. That kin size is just such a huge difference maker. Now with Julio getting aggressive and being the zone out, Dharmic Pillars come down. Not even a contest from Cold Llamas as that Fire Giant gets taken from Belt Slap. And so they've got 4 minutes of power play ready for them to go. It's a real dangerous position to be in if you're Cold Llamas.
Yeah, I said last game that they were 10k up, and I equate Fire Giant to 10k, so that's about 20,000. And I said at the exact same time, around that 20-minute mark. It's happening again. Belt Slap, 10,000, maybe closer to 13,000 gold up. And now Fire Giant, let's call it 23,000 gold with a Kali in your game who's rapidly approaching full build. No one's going to be able to tank this Kali damage for more than 4 seconds. There's just no way. Maybe if they get some healing, maybe if they get some shells, but even then, with the auto attack speed coming out, you're not living that much longer. And Maniac is about to find out the hard way.
Well, it's a weird path, a different draft, but it seems like the destination might be the same place for Belt Slap as it was in Game 1. And it's just control, and right now it's being led mostly by Johnny there. 7-1-3 out of the jungler. 4-1-2 there for Xeros, so definitely not something to glance over, but you lose your tier 2 in left, you lose your tier 2 in mid. Soon enough, one of these Phoenixes is going to be under pressure. Once again, they've gone for this 3-2 split. But with Julio being so willing to dive deep, same thing for Trickstank, and honestly, same thing for Johnny. Where does your defense look to try and pull this back?
Normally I'd say Discordia, but at level 16 the damage output is so low. She's usually very good on siege defense. She has fantastic range CC tools. She's got the ability to throw out damage relatively for free. That Unruly Magic should be able to poke out just about everyone. But we already saw it. He hit the Strife. He hit the Unruly Magic. Trickstank already is going to be healing it back up. Julio took just about no damage from it either. And now Johnny's going to be pressuring out mid. And with Maniac having no ultimate, he's not going to feel safe.
Well, Fail's already forced out of the fight. River's Rebuke was used as well, and Maniac has no world surfing to try and keep himself alive, so Hazer is going to be the first one on the chopping block, and Johnny takes him down no problem. This time around, Phoenix looks to go down here on left side. A lot of aggression into the back line of Belt Slap. Xeros, though, turns it around. Streak Up goes down. Fails goes down. Pretty Prime goes down. Mifflin, it looks like they're just going to end it here. That's a full-on deicide, a triple kill for the Kali. 10, 1, and 4. Now the Titan's going to go down, and Belt Slap are going to take this one in 23.
Look, it's not easy to say it, especially considering that they're world champions on Belt Slap's roster. We've got guys who have been at the world stage multiple times, but Johnny, man, this guy is absolutely the driving force behind Belt Slap. And that's not to say that Cold Llamas are a bad team. Belt Slap made him look like that. But I would say that Cold Llamas are uncrowned kings. If Belt Slap don't exist, Cold Llamas might just be the uncontestable top team in the SCC. They just came at a poor time.
I had mentioned it. Both of these teams coming in undefeated, well, into this set. Unfortunately, Cold Llamas are the ones who are going to be walking away with that one there. But, you know, I say this a lot when it comes down to this screen specifically. You know, Julio did so much for the team in terms of zoning. Trickstank created a lot of space and set up a ton of kills. But it's just so hard to ignore when someone goes 10, 1, and 4 to not talk about them. And we've been talking about Johnny the whole time. In fact, he's not even top damage on the team. That one goes to Xeros, just behind Xeros. I'm sorry, it goes to Julio, just behind Julio is Xeros. But the fact that they were so close, that there was so much potent damage from maybe that core 3 there, it just made such a big difference. And here's that Gold Fury. that came through, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be a little bit of the Ganesh. I think the edge of the Dharmic Pillar touching the Cold Fury.
I think it might have been that, or it could have been Ganesh's one. Either way, they stole it away. That's
happy.
the worst feeling in the world. Oh, I take it back. That's the worst feeling in the world. Getting a little bit overzealous in your aggression and losing your life under a tier 2. It just doesn't look too good there. If Cold Llamas are able to just clean up their early game, not throw away their leads, they were looking good at game 2. I thought we might have gone to a game 3, but just a little bit of a risky play throws it all away.
And this was the one that I think really solidified Johnny. There was a lot of, okay, Johnny making big turnarounds. I would maybe argue that one where he solos fails, or I guess kind of returns and retaliates against Fails' aggression in the tier 2. But when he gets a full-on double kill and has just decided, oh, by the way, I'm Kali now, that's a big threat to deal with.
Johnny didn't use his ultimate in that last engagement. He didn't have to. He was so well equipped to deal with everything that was coming his way. The support that he got from the Ganesh, the Dharmic Pillars separating the team. Yeah, at no point did he feel like his life was under any threat, so he just maintains that tool the entire time. That's huge for Akali. I mean, I said it earlier, he might not be the biggest name on that roster, but he's definitely got some of the biggest impact. Shouts to Johnny. He gets my MVP for this week.
Well, Belt Slap again, 3-0 so far. Not dropping too many in the way things have been going between Phase 1 and Phase 2. So far, no sets dropped for them, but of course, the rest of these teams hope to try and do that, whether it's going to be Cold Llamas, the Poppies, even Freshly Forged right now, I think, in the conversation of teams that are going to try to elbow down Belt Slap a little bit. They take that one 2-0. And again, later on today, if you want to be able to watch them, Freshly Forged, the Poppies will be going up against each other. Cold Llamas and the Lane Surfers just after that. So you can see Cold Llamas in a matchup that maybe will favor them a little bit more as they take on the bottom seed here in the SEC. And then tomorrow is going to be North America. But, I mean, that's the biggest thing. You know, after SPL today, we're going to be going in and watching some of these teams. And like you said, Cold Llamas, they have a lot that can be proven. And if Belt Slap's maybe not there, they're in conversation to be first place team, maybe having to fight the Poppies for it.
And we can't ignore the fact that both of these teams have recently had to go through some slight roster changes, or maybe it was just Cold Llamas. Yeah. Either way, this is a squad that's still growing together. The Hazer's a new addition. They need to just get used to each other, and I think if they do, already showing that they can fight into Belt Slap, that they were able to establish a lead in Game 2, that might bode very well for the rest of the season for these guys. And as they become more comfortable with each other, I think they might be one of the better teams in the league. They already are. I already claimed that they're uncrowned kings. That stands true. They might even be able to be crowned kings. Who knows?
They just have to find those wins as they come through. And of course, they're still playing for the long run when it comes down to it. So one set maybe not going their way isn't the end of the world. But guys, that's going to do it for the European Smite Challenger circuit from us today, at least until post-SBL, because, well, you guessed it, in about 48 minutes here, the Smite Pro League is going to be kicking off. E-United are going to be taking on the Pittsburgh Knights. It's a very important set for E-United to be able to come in. If they win, they're going to be able to secure their spot in the playoffs. If they lose, Renegades still have an opportunity to try and change some things up tomorrow and take their fate into their own hands. But you don't want to miss it. You're going to go ahead, take a quick break there as we get set up for the Smite Pro League. So we'll see you in just a few.